Yeah, I think we live in a world, especially in digital marketing, where everything is instant, right? Especially with paid search, you can just create a campaign, create some ads, and then within an hour or two, you can see your page at the top of the search engine results page. But with SEO, is something that takes more planning. It just takes more time and effort. So, for example, sometimes I've shown clients two blog posts from 2 years ago and showing that exponential curve in traffic, and it just blows them away because honestly they've probably forgot about that blog post and have no idea that it's driving so much traffic since it was a year or two ago.
I think it's hard for a lot of people because everybody has a hard time investing money, but I think they have a harder time investing time. And even if they make the commitment to either one, it's also, you're a month or two in, you're questioning, did I make the right choice? And as an example, paid search will tell you pretty quickly if you made the right choice, whereas SEO, it's like, you still got some time here, still got to keep building it up. But to me, it's a little bit like investing for retirement. Invest in retirement, you say set it and forget it. Well, nobody forgets anything in marketing. You want to see the results, but the value is like that. It just keeps compounding, I think, over time, and it's hard to take it away once you have it.
Exactly. It's almost like online real estate. Like once you own it, it just continues to increase in value.
It is online real estate. I mean, it's exactly that, right? I mean, you're basically, you have to work at it. You can buy it too, but it becomes expensive and it disappears. It's temporary if you're trying to buy it, right?
Right. Or where you invest your resources to. So you can try to optimize for a certain term, but is it really a term that's going to generate business for you? It's kind of, again, like real estate. You want to make sure that it's in the right space, in the right area for market attractiveness.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the challenges. There's so many businesses that are constantly like pivoting and changing like who they're after or how they're selling. So SEO is a hard one for them because it has a long-term payoff. But if you know who you are and you say, hey, I want to own this sort of like term or this idea, you have to be an SEO because otherwise you can't compete with people just by paying for that traffic constantly.
Agree.
Yeah. So in terms of the native team, you've been with us for how long, Taylor?
Almost 4 months.
4 months. So since this is still simply, technically like early days, is there like a personality quirk or like a stupid party trick or something that the team doesn't know about you that you haven't like revealed about yourself yet? Or is there something that they found out and they're like, oh man, Taylor does that?
I don't know if I have a funny like quirk, but I am obsessed with planning. I think maybe that's why I'm so keen on SEO is because it does take so much planning, both in the short term, but like a long-term vision and plan. So anytime we try to brainstorm ideas, I just want to take all the ideas and start putting them in a sequence. I can't really help it. It's just how my mind works. So I think that can be a true asset and skill. But also, I can get like, okay, wait, let's take all these ideas and let's put them in a sequential timeline order so we know that we're basically snowballing our efforts. Um, yeah,
So
just
basically
how
you
my
need to be
brain
on
works.
so basically you need to be on the party planning committee just to make sure we get stuff done.
Yeah, basically it's like, okay, let's figure out exactly what we want to do and let's achieve it all is how I try to approach things.
Yep. Well, the project management team is going to like you then, I think. They don't already.
Yeah, I think I can foresee certain things that need to be done. So, for example, since the expertise is in SEO, the project manager may not know all the milestones. So I can put myself in their shoes and help them understand, like, okay, let's actually add this benchmark and this milestone in this process here and here. And I think it just helps make things run a little smoother.
That's cool. What was the best gig that you had before Native?
Oh gosh. Um, well, this is not really an advertising or a marketing agency world, but I actually worked for a nonprofit right out of school. And I think it just taught me how to be really humble and how to speak to literally anyone. I was a grant writer and a communications marketing coordinator, I believe it was. So we worked with homeless families, and a part of my job was observing and listening to their stories and kind of the program's impact, and then taking that and then writing it up in a grant. So that was really the coolest gig. I think I took it for granted, especially with what's going on now. Yeah, not super funny, but it was pretty awesome. Life changing.
Yeah, I think it's nice whenever we take on the nonprofit clients and can help them out. I know there's several people on our team who get really energized by that, because sometimes they can help 3 or 4, in a year.
Yeah.
We don't really pursue them; they always find us. But we've been fortunate to work with some pretty good ones.
Yep. They do the work that matters, in my opinion, from a social standpoint. And honestly, they always need help. So giving back is really important too.
What are other aspects of working at Native that are energizing to you? Are there parts of your day-to-day that you're like, oh, I love that. Like, that's what I look forward to.
Yeah. For sure, the collaboration. Collaboration is huge for me. I work on websites, right? So planning the strategy from the get-go through sitemap, keyword research, on-page recommendations. So I get to collaborate with copy and design a lot. And they just have a totally different skill set than me. I kind of get it a little bit, but whatever ideas I have in my head just exponentially change and become better once it reaches them. And I love that. I love getting all the brains together and figuring out the perfect solution.
Yeah, it really is the best part of what we do, I think. And a lot of people say the same thing, especially I think on our team, we've got a lot of sharp people, but everybody approaches it just a little bit differently.
Yeah. Having smart people makes it even more fun.
So I get asked this question a lot, especially when I'm talking with new people who are interviewing with us. But they'll ask, why do people work at Native? And I have my guesses at why people work at Native, but why did you choose to work at Native?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think, I saw you speak at Social Media Club, Kansas City, I want to say a couple of years ago, and you reviewed the San Jose project and just the intention behind it and all of the things that were taken into consideration. It was very purposeful. And it's like, these guys are doing something different. They really take the time to understand, think about the market and how to position a brand. And I just hadn't seen that from other agencies in town. They more talked about like the technical creative pieces or just overall innovative aesthetics, that kind of thing. Not really the strategy behind it. So, and then I found out that essentially Native was recruiting the best minds in Kansas City marketing into one smaller shop. So basically cut out all the big agency cons, but with really smart people. And it kind of seemed like the best of every world possible. So yeah, definitely kept my eye on Native, but happy to be here.
It's cool. That case study just continues to be something that stands out to people. I mean, the work is now 2 or 3 years old, and I mean, we continue to work on it, but the case study, that story is 2 to 3 years old. And I've tried to retire that thing many times, and people will come up to me after if I've spoke on something else. They're like, "Oh, I wish you'd talk about that San Jose case study again." Like, it really clicks with people. Maybe it's just the way we tell the story. I don't know, but it is funny. Like, the idea of trying to do brand strategy work is always difficult to do it for a city, especially a large city.
Right.
Man, it's hard. And but it didn't phase us. We just went after it and did what made sense. And looking back, it is kind of almost arrogant to think that you could pull it off. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of things had to go right for it to work the way it did. But maybe that's why it connects with people.
Yeah, I think so few people do it right. Right? Like rebrands of schools or cities or larger institutions. I mean, 99% of the time it's a flop, right? And this just blew it away. And I think it's something that just stands out in people's mind.
That's cool. So you've been with us for 4 months. You've known about us and probably checked in with us and kind of followed us on social media and stuff like that before then, though. We turned 5 years old during quarantine, which is an awesome time to have your 5th anniversary of a business, because the party got canceled for a little bit. But every once in a while, somebody will ask us, hey, how did you guys go from 1 to 25 people in 5 years? What would be your answer if someone asked that question? Why were we able to grow so consistently?
I would probably say the quality of work that Native just turns out, right? It wasn't even a matter of like, we only do this type of work. Initially, it was very open, right? So proven success in a bunch of different industries, working for a variety of different clients, I think helped with probably referrals, right? So one happy client refers to another client who then comes and joins Native, and then eventually it starts expanding. You almost have a snowball effect, right? Plus recruiting good talent as well, ensuring that whoever we bring on to the team is competent, confident, and can really impress the client. Between the two, probably go hand in hand. That's what I would say is probably the cause of Native's success.
I completely agree. I'm not sure there's anything else. It's do good work, and to do good work, you have to have good people. And then if you do, people are shocked, honestly, and then they tell each other. There's a lot of people who, when they're trying to pick a marketing firm, branding firm, they're very nervous they're going to make a bad choice. So when it turns out, they're just like, holy cow, this actually worked, It's sad that that's the reaction, but I think there's a lot of people who are surprised. Surprised by it. So if you had to make a prediction on what we look like in the next 5 years, any thoughts on what we look like when we turn 10 years old?
Well, still based in Kansas City, obviously. More remote people, since I am technically the first full-time remote person. So I'd love to see more people joining the team outside of Kansas City.
You're actually the second. You're the only one right now.
Oh,
the second. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll change my narrative. The second. And I would imagine probably, obviously our team would grow, but I don't see the culture changing that much. I see the culture still being very close, very collaborative, very kind to each other, and wanting everyone on the team to succeed no matter what. From a client perspective, I'm really hoping we start having those companies that are doing something innovative in their space, and they're just not really sure how to communicate it, what they should look like, or how they should go on developing their marketing strategy. Basically knocking down our doors versus us finding them. It's like, hey, you guys help market or help brands like stand out in the marketplace, help them grow and scale. We want in on that. But in my mind, it's very innovative companies ahead of the curve.
No, I like that. I was talking to Paris the other day. This is definitely something that won't make the cut, but marketing firms like ourselves are there's so many of us, right? Like you've read Blue Ocean Strategy, right? Mm-hmm. We're in the reddest of oceans. Mm-hmm. And I would love for us to, I don't believe we'll ever quite get into a blue ocean ever. I think it would take a ton of work and change a lot of what we are, but I do like this idea. Restaurants are also red oceans. There's some restaurants it's hard to get into, and you feel pretty cool when you get into one. And it requires you to be small. You can't scale and be McDonald's everywhere, right? And so I think our sort of like disdain and suspicion of size may potentially cap our growth, but then move us into being one of those like restaurants it's hard to get into. So I think that's kind of a fun thing to think about. I think a lot of people on our team would be energized by that.
Yeah, I mean, you can basically handpick the projects that you want.
Yeah, not many people do that. That takes a lot of, you have to be very good to get that option, and then you have to resist the urge of money, basically. You have to say, no thanks, we'll just do good work and be snobs about some stuff, So in your first 4 months, have there been Have there been like little stories that you've told your friends outside of work or something, or is there something that has a, I mean, outside of COVID, gosh, that's taken up half of this, right? Or most of it. Have there been things that have happened at Native that you have enjoyed or look back and are story worthy?
Like experiences together. It's so hard because I've only been here for 4 months.
It is like how many, and in COVID, with COVID happening, most of it.
I mean, I feel like it's.
Or another way to frame it up would be like, what would be something you'd tell your friends or your parents or family or something about working at Native? Like this happened, or we do this, or something like that.
Oh man, I'm so nerdy. Like I tell a bunch of little small stories, and it's usually always project based, I guess. Be like, oh man, we had this client. It was really cool. We had this challenge, and this person did this, and it was amazing. So it's almost like I just talk about Native just to talk about Native. Uh, People probably don't find them as engaging as me, but I'm like, oh, it was just amazing and it was awesome and it was just so different, right? And yeah, unless I talk to someone in the industry, it doesn't always resonate, but people who are in it are like, yeah, that's awesome. So I don't know about any team stories yet, unfortunately, though.
Yeah, I'm trying to I'm picturing your conversations, and my guess is you really have to gauge your audience before you go into depths about, oh man, we totally got this cost per acquisition down. They're like, what?
Yeah,
What are you talking about?
a lot of the stories are web. People find the web stories a little bit more interesting than
Really?
the technical SEO things. I think it's maybe something that they can just relate to more. And I don't have a ton of like marketing analyst, marketing managers within my friend circle.
What would be like what would be a website story?
You know, actually, now that I think about it, one of my client stories, I was talking up USA Facts at this. Oh, I was such a downer. I was talking about it at a bachelorette party. They were like, "Oh yeah, like how's work going?" I was like, "Oh, it's going great. I feel like I'm doing work that's meaningful. I'm working on this client called USA Facts, and they basically, tell the deets of the nation in numbers, but like nonpartisan numbers. And I help people find that accurate data and information versus turning to news outlets and maybe listening to skewed information." And so I'm like, man, that's like really cool. So that's like a non website build, but just talking about the work that our clients do.
Yeah, that's a great client to feel good about. I mean, they're solving a real problem, so it's awesome whenever we can help those clients, and they seem to really value our relationship too, which makes it even better.
Yeah, a lot of my friends are very socially active and politically a little bit, so we can have some good conversations about accurate information and people having access to that and just learning about things that matter in society. Yeah, we're huge nerds, but